Anything else good?
Yep.
Technologically speaking.
Technological.
Okay. I'm going to consider, I'm going to call this ordinance meeting order at 5 o'clock.
Thereabouts, or very close to.
We have to consider approval of director request for remote meeting attendance. I think we're all here, so that's not a consideration. We have to select a committee chairman.
Bill, do it. You got your gavel. right
Yeah,
there.
That was covered.
Equipped.
Step back fast enough. I got it. Okay. All right. I guess that is duly noted. Public comment, item not on the agenda, 3 minutes limit. Is there anyone?
Nope, nobody here from the
Okay.
public.
In the box. Items for committee consideration, discussion, and possible recommendation of the board of directors. Review and discussion of proposed updates to District Code of Regulations board member compensation.
Bill Murphy was.
Infamous Ordinance 74.
What was the year on that?
2015.
15.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, well, things get better with age, some things don't. So at this point, I suppose we are, should I read this, memorandum?
You do not need to, no. It is more for informational purposes.
It's on the record.
Okay,
Correct.
so at this point, then, shall we discuss?
I remember Bill, Jack Curtis had dark hair back then. He brought up the point more about the travel per diem, breakfast, lunch, dinner, for the cost events, because he was going to all of them back then. And I remember we also did a study for comparing us to other districts, and I think we went from $100 up to the current level, 175. Initially, it was just for board meetings. Then later on, a couple years later, we added committee meetings at the same rate, because committee meetings used to be 50%. Half of them.
Yeah.
They
One of these
only
complicated.
half as important.
It was funny because sometimes the committee meetings would run 2 and 3 hours. Well, it didn't seem to make sense based on your investment of time.
I noticed one of the comparable districts here has a different rate. Not that much different, but is different.
What's our, we're looking like we're about almost half or a little more than half of other districts.
Leaving our district out, I just threw all the numbers into Excel and it gives you averages automatically if you do that. The average for full board meetings of the other comparable districts, leaving ours out, was 234 and change. And for committee meetings was 230 and change, because of that one district had 2 different rates.
That's a pretty good gauge, I think.
So that's saying,
And I remember Kintosh saying he was embarrassed that he was getting 250 from whatever water district he's on the board. Miners Oaks, okay.
which is it's a smaller operation.
Smaller operation, yeah.
So, okay. So there's the average consensus, which is either 230 or 235 based on these facts. Based on also from a practical perspective is whatever is recommended by this committee and subsequently adopted by the greater board is going to be in effect for, I think by the last one, 7 or 8 years. Okay, so I'm not too concerned about it being high in the age of inflation. pretty much, I can't think of what else is going the other direction personally. That would,
Inflation and compound interest pretty much trumps everything.
yeah,
Excuse my French
yeah.
for saying Trump.
Does the, what would you think? I mean, double is going way, I mean, that's over 300. 235, so what do you think? 25.
Well, I'm going to say anywhere in that range is going to be okay for,
For the
and
next
to
10
me,
years.
justifiable for now and also projecting the next few years.
I don't think directors like to talk about this. From the last board meeting, we discussed it. It's just,
When I was first elected in 18, I didn't realize it was a paying position. Seemed like it'd be a fun job, and it's turned out to be.
That was very humble.
It's planning commission, I don't get paid for. The 501c3s that I manage, I don't get paid for.
So
Planning commission is a real time suck.
it is, it is.
the Lions Club kills me and I get 0 from that.
Yeah.
Except
So,
groups.
but this is a little different than either of those because this is an elected position.
That's true.
And it's responsible for a significantly larger budget and an operation that transcends.
Planning commission has no budget at all, so.
Well, there is, I think there's a stipend for monkey business, don't you think? Okay, so having said that, from my perspective, the range of, 235 to even 275 is, I think is a reasonable range. So let's come up with a consensus.
Hey, I think 275 sounds.
Chip in here. So the
Away.
statute has, a very low rate of $100, which is passed, way back when. It's way outdated, but it says you guys can raise it if you choose to do so, which you've done in the past. I noticed that there's some water code sections that are referred to in the statute, and I'm not sure that they really apply to a sanitary district. But one of the things those water code sections say is that the annual increase shouldn't be more than 5%. So I think that would still fall within the range you're thinking, because it's been so long. If you go 5% for the last
5% compounded for
I
9 years is gonna get you there.
think you're still fine, but probably for appearances, maybe try to keep it at the 5.
Yeah, we don't want to have a crowd sitting out here.
I didn't even check to see what that would be. I remember the 5%.
Bill apparently knows how to do it.
Well, this is just rough. I mean, rough. I think you're going to be around 245, 250.
That's what I was saying.
So, and that's assuming applicability of water codes, which is appearing, we're not
It's debatable.
somewhere in the back of my head.
Should stop it.
That kind of water.
Stop at 250. Have some.
Be sure we don't overrun the statute.
Have people sitting out here complaining, reaching ourselves.
You mean other board members?
No, the public. They'll show up. They'll come from the trailer park. They'll come from. If you get out of office center too far, they come.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, so that centering sounds like 250 then? Is that where we want to?
Yeah, I would recommend 250.
Do we want to take a vote?
I don't.
Do
think
we need to
have
take a vote?
You're making a general recommendation as
Oh,
long as.
very
we're
cool.
consensus.
So this will be the recommendation to the board will be 250.
And then do you want to revisit the standing day of service? We previously talked about that in prior ordinance committee meetings when we discussed this, potentially adding or expanding those definitions, like for presentations to the Board of Realtors or other local agencies.
That's right.
We thought about that.
We talked about, or saying, I think we decided maybe adding the Board of Realtors or any city or county organization in which you're representing the district. Expand that list a little because it's fairly limited. Actually, we probably do more of that than we do some of this.
Our group used to routinely go to the special districts functions.
I went a couple of times to the Ventura County OVSDA.
That was day of service. Well, then,
We'll leave it with a limit of 6 days a month, though.
That's correct. That's one of the statutory.
It's 6 days a month.
That's statutory.
Days a month, so you have to cap it.
Okay, so having said that, how do we, at this point, how do we want to enlarge the definition, I guess, of a day of service?
I guess it's really, a day of service is a day when you are performing official functions on behalf of the district.
Okay.
That would be attending a conference or attending a meeting that is a special district sort of meeting, or you're talking to some civilian group, but you're representing the district. Not sure exactly what the right words are, but that sounds fine.
Well, I raised this, as I recall.
hopefully,
No, well, that's what I raised, but I raised it here, so, because nobody pays attention when you're remote. And there are two components from my perspective, which was whether a board member is entitled to compensation for day of service when they cannot attend, but not for the permissible excuses pursuant to
2449.
2449. But because my personal experience was I attended remotely to track and follow the board process, ostensibly for no other reason.
And all that, yeah.
For no other reason than representing my division, my as an elected official.
without the ability to vote.
Correct.
That was, but you know,
Or
under
participate.
the original Brown Act, you can do that and participate as a voting member if you list wherever you are as
Right.
part of the public venue and invite people in and post the agenda. I'm gonna do that next week. And next Wednesday, I'm gonna be at my daughter's house in Knoxville, Tennessee.
So people from the
Not
public.
tomorrow, but a week.
Travel to Knoxville to, look over his shoulder.
But the day of service doesn't have anything to do with the Brown Act, right?
No, the day of service doesn't. But the attending remotely and being a fully fledged member.
Without the ability to vote, but still,
No, but he could have the ability to vote if we listed wherever he was.
is that true, Dennis? Can he?
I don't think you need to have the ability to vote. I don't think it's determined. It's just a meeting, seminar, conference, and Allison, I think, proposed expanding the scope. You have some enumerated additional, CASA, you've got CESDA, certain
I would-
ones that you could expand on if you want.
I think the question has come up multiple times is, does the board have the discretion in discussing OVSD 74 to add its own day of service or paid benefit for somebody who is for a board member who is attending not under an approvable AB 2449, but chooses to attend and without participating for the sake of the benefit of their constituents, to obviously for continuity of conversation, et cetera. Does the board have the discretion to decide that that's a benefit in which the district wants to pay them for because we want to encourage them to attend and not miss a meeting and lose the conversation solely because they're not getting paid and can't vote? Do we have the right to do that and define it as something else if it's not covered under a legal day of service? We've asked that question numerous times of whether we can do that or not, and decide to pay our board members simply for being present.
Well, and that isn't an abrogation of 2449 either, although I have to, from a comment perspective, since last time I checked, it was a legislative act signed by the governor, and those things always seem to take longer to sunset or be withdrawn than circumstances and events would indicate otherwise. But this is kind of a separate thing. This isn't saying participate in the machinations the board, not participate in the discussion. It would allow for asking questions, obviously, but not participating in conversation and not participating in a vote, and yet be compensated for the video attendance.
It would be similar to attending a conference like the CASA conference.
Yeah, it's kind of a
You sit there and
yeah,
take
same
in,
thing.
take in the information, and you don't participate, but you.
Right. I mean, like, there's an obvious benefit to that, I mean, from a district perspective, and I think from previous conversations we've had about the same thing, there's a benefit to each other for someone to do that. So we're not sure if it's allowable or how we would allow that under this to be a compensated event, because they're not acting in that capacity.
Does the statute define a day of service?
Get the issue. I'd have to look at that a little more, but I don't see where, like you say, if you're attending a CASA seminar, you're just in the audience, learning,
The same sort of thing.
participating. You're not on up at
Not
the
making decisions on behalf of the
presenting or
district.
that. So
I think that I would vote for a committee, a yes on
Support
that.
that?
Yeah, recommend a more expansive definition of day of service, like we've discussed.
Can I send you this, and maybe you could come up with some vaguely worded something
Yeah.
that would get that?
I'll double
There it
check,
is.
make sure it's okay, but my guess is that it'll be.
Okay. So that would be pending the vetting. Obviously, that would be then our recommendation, isn't it?
And it was good to do the 5% compound interest to come up with something close to 250. The rest of the board is going to want to know how we grab that number.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the aggregation of the 5% allowable over an 8-year term with just a skosh of compound.
Well, it's really, it's 9 years now. It's 2024.
See, I'm already getting sloppy. Okay. Right. So, is there anything else that pertains to that
Is there
issue?
so that we don't have to do this every 10 years, is there a way that we could do a 5% or 3% or 4%? It should be something we consider annually.
Yeah, I think
Same as the general manager.
change our pay, we have to vote on it. I don't think you can project into the future and have it be an automatic thing.
True, and I also know that during economic downturns, it's not popular. So I think that's where we got in the habit of ignoring.
I think it's probably not that popular in a year when we're raising rates either. But
So we'll just leave that alone then. It would be our,
think about it every couple, 3 years.
I think exactly when that's to me is maybe not 8 or 9, but something along every, certainly no more than 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Because a lot changes in that period of time. So, okay, is there anything else that we,
That's all I had.
oh, quick question. When was this comparison done?
It was updated. So the original comparison, I didn't choose these agencies. I actually, when we participate in such things like this at request, they give us the data. So I took a data table that was probably from 2022, and I had it updated right before we had this initial conversation in November. So it's November-ish.
so it's
not that
lagging a
old.
bit.
It's lagging, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering
Fairly
if some of these numbers have changed. It's just
it was,
not worth.
it's possible, but like I said, I don't think people visited on the annual, so.
Dennis, is that right?
That's right.
You said something about, yes, statutorily 6 days a month was the limit. One of these, I don't have the table in front of me, one of these is up to 10 days a month. Districts.
No to exceed a total of 10 days in any calendar month.
Is that
That's
a-
Rodeo
I
Sanitary.
believe the 6 day, is it a sanitary district? Is that-
Yeah, because
I think the sanitary district code specifically says 6 day.
Those other special districts might do other numbers. Okay.
So
Just
shape on
curious,
that.
because it,
Yeah, everybody else is 6, so. Okay. we, having no other business, then. we can,
Yeah, the consensus of the committee is,
Consensus like, the consensus of the committee is we're gonna recommend, a figure of approximately $250, per, day of service and not to exceed 6, per month. And that we will expand the definition, and the terms, for day of service to include, evidence, via video without, excuse under 2449.
Sounds good.
And did you also want to add any city or county organization or board of realtors
Yes.
presentations?
Yes.
You want to do those also? Okay, great.
presentation to outside entities as an official of the district.
Okay.
All right, very good. Well, I'm going to close this meeting then at 5:31.